If you're planning on seeing Men in the theater, and you really should see it in the theater, the Grand Cinema in Tacoma, Washington is among the many art houses where it's playing. They also happen to be our movie house shout out of the week. They've been around for 25 years. They do indies, they do foreign films, they do big studio releases, they do all kinds of cool work in the community. So go check them out through the link in our description and check out our breakfast all day review of Men right here. Great to see you guys back with our fantastic friend, Katie Walsh from Tribune, who is my perfect friend to talk about Men with, because she was at the screening with me and we all kind of walked out in a daze, like, what did we just see? And so I really need to work through this with you.
And there were a lot of like whimpers and noises and various people kind of going like, oh God, no.
Like in a good way?
There's just some things you won't be able to ever unsee.
You're tormented.
It feels more like...
Haunted.
Yeah. Something happened.
Well, let's talk about them without getting too terribly detailed, because there's a lot that you should experience for yourself.
Yes.
Visually.
Yes.
So what's Men about?
Men is about a young woman named Harper who is played by Jessie Buckley. She goes through sort of a really traumatic loss in her life, the loss of her husband. And she takes a vacation to a country home in the beautiful countryside of England to kind of rest and recuperate. And she rents this gorgeous manor estate from a funny, weird, quirky guy played by Rory Kinnear. And she soon starts to realize that all is not quite right in this little hamlet of Kotzen. Is that what it was? It was Kotzen?
Something like that.
And I would say the movies that this most reminded me of were Wicker Man and Get Out, but obviously with like a gender Alex Garland twist. And because it's got folk horror elements, she's starting to realize that there's like maybe some like ancient, weird sort of ritualistic stuff that may or may not happen here. She's running into all these weird guys, which I don't know if I should say.
I mean, I think you can because it's in the trailer. I mean,
they're all played by Rory Kinnear.
Right. It's a trip.
It starts to feel really strange because he's either in makeup or a wig or in some other kind of costuming, or in some cases like the CGI to his face to change the way he looks. But you keep being like, that looks a lot like Rory Kinnear. That looks a lot like Rory Kinnear. Is that policeman look like Rory Kinnear? And so she's starting to have some unsettling experiences, and then it all devolves from there.
Right. Well said. Yeah. And so it is Rory Kinnear, and it's like the slightest tweaks to his face, whether it's his hair being different or his teeth or
contacts
there's one instance where I believe it is intentionally really obviously fake looking to be off-putting. Like from the very beginning, you are in this sense of dread. You are ill at ease. It is absolutely Alex Garland's specialty to create and hold you in this sustained mood of unease, of dread, of mystery, just being on the edge of your seat. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Like I could physically feel my heart pounding a lot of the time.
The tension is unbearable.
Totally.
Especially like once he starts establishing, that things are not quite right in this world, and she's having some unsettling experiences. Like the entire house is made of windows. So anytime you see a window, you're just like, what the hell am I going to see outside of this window?
Right. And it is a horror movie in that way where you're like, oh, look up behind you.
It's absolutely a horror movie. I mean, it's a folk horror movie. It's a slasher movie. It's a home invasion thriller. It's like, it's like Get Out in the sense that, she's this character who functions a lot like Daniel Kaluuya's character, where you're just like, get out.
But it's also like a lot of the more like the smarter and more substantive horror in that it's an exploration of her grief And
Yes, it's about trauma,
it's about trauma.
As Jamie Lee Curtis would say.
Yes, it's
He
about
always says
trauma. Trauma. It's about experiencing that. It's about working through it. It's about how it manifests itself. And it's, the way it does for her is that things that are seemingly peaceful and bucolic, like this house is meant to be a place of healing for her, like it becomes increasingly a place of dread and paranoia. And that tone and the way that plays out is like beautifully tense and had me just so on edge, and like you could feel your heart beating and the breath quickening. Like it's a visceral reaction to this. And Ex Machina does that expertly. I love Ex Machina. I didn't love Annihilation quite so much, but he's good at this. And also all of his films take place at some point in like a really richly leafy, green, serene place that seems very inviting and in time becomes nightmarish. And so there's a through line in that regard. And Jessie Buckley has to register a lot in terms of the physicality of the performance, in terms of making us see the world through her eyes and question what's real and what's not. And then something happens in the third act that I don't want to even begin to go into. No. But it becomes a totally different kind of movie, and it becomes like a what the fuck movie. Like I was watching it going, bring on the F cinema score, because people are going to walk out of this like, what the hell did I just see?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a make or break thing. Like either you're still going to go with it in that direction or you're not. And I wanted to go with it because it's so ambitious. It's so strange. And it's so technically just like visceral and tactile and bizarre. It reminded me of Mother in the way it goes into weird places, but I don't know what he's trying to say with it.
Exactly. He wants to say something. The movie is called Men. He wants to say something so bad, and it doesn't get out. Like it doesn't, it doesn't get out, but he doesn't coherently articulate what he's trying to say. And he poses a lot of provocative questions. And I think this is the kind of movie that would be really fun to like grab a coffee or a drink with afterwards and sort of unpack what's going on. But you're going to have to come to your own conclusions about what this movie's trying to say, because he does not get out what he's trying to say. There's no coherent message at the end of the day. And I think it's probably my favorite Alex Garland film so far. Like Ex Machina is like meh for me, and Annihilation, I just kept comparing it to the book. But I liked it. But this, like, I love the craft is incredible. I loved the color, the cinematography, the editing was superb. The music that he uses, the songs, the sound design, it's like absolutely gorgeous. And Jessie Buckley's great. Rory Kinnear is great. I think a female director honestly would have let Jessie Buckley or Harper be a little bit more active.
Because she's just reacting to whatever's going on around her.
She's very passive. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel at the end of this. If it's triumphant, or if we fixed things, or if we like came to an ending. It's like, what happened? There's some loose ends. There's some loose ends, I feel like. But yeah, it's definitely going to be one to chew over and have this discussion where you say, what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah. But beyond saying like men can be terrible, what are we trying to say here? And it does so in a way that is in some ways very simple and very obvious, like biblical even, that men are terrible. And so it's profound from a technical perspective, but perhaps not so much from a thematic one. But yes, that conversation needs to happen. So if you go see this, go see it with a friend. You've got to see it in a theater. As you said, the sound design is fantastic, a lot of which comes from Jessie Buckley herself. What is your number, my friend?
I'm going to say 7.3.
Okay, I'm saying 7.6. We're at 7.5. Men is only in theaters, and that's pretty much where you want to see it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want to watch this at home.
Yeah. It's it's definitely a physical, visceral experience. You want to hear the sounds that people are making around you.
Oh,
Christy.